Look at a map of the Americas, and you will see a marvel of engineering. The Pan-American Highway is a continuously paved network stretching 19,000 miles, connecting the frozen edges of Alaska all the way down to the southern tip of Argentina. But right in the middle, between Panama and Colombia, the asphalt ends. For 66 miles, the road is swallowed by a wall of dense jungle. This is the Darién Gap. It is the only point on the map where the continental road network simply ceases to exist. Over the last 100 years, human engineering has drilled through the Swiss Alps and built cities in arid deserts. Yet this specific tiny fraction of land remains entirely unpaved. It is an anomaly that challenges the assumption that modern technology can conquer any environment on Earth. This map shows the extreme topography. Panama's Serranía del Darién is a jagged mountain range of sharp ridges and dense rainforest. Tilting toward Colombia, the elevation drops into the Atrato River Delta, a massive, shifting swamp lacking solid ground for a roadbed. The environment is physically hostile. The region receives over 100 inches of rain annually. Sudden storms trigger flash floods that can raise river levels by 10 feet in minutes. And the underbrush is populated by jaguars, bullet ants, and the highly venomous fer-de-lance snake. The gap functions as a fortress, naturally configured to weaponize water and mud against any heavy machinery brought inside its borders. In the 1970s, the United States government funded a major initiative to finally bridge this gap and complete the Pan-American Highway. To prove the route could be conquered, the 1972 British Trans-America's expedition attempted to drive specially modified heavy-duty Range Rovers straight through the jungle. The terrain dismantled their vehicles. They had to float the cars across swamps on inflatable rafts. In the end, it took the team 99 grueling days to cover just 250 miles. That is an average of barely 2.5 miles a day. Following that mechanical failure, state funding dried up. The global consensus solidified. The Darién Gap was impossible to cross. But while multi-million-dollar machines failed decades ago, over 500,000 human beings now cross this exact terrain on foot every year. Migrants from across the globe hike through the gap for 5 to 10 days. The deep, wet clay subjects them to severe medical conditions, specifically trench foot, a painful infection caused by feet remaining submerged in wet mud for the duration of the trek. Families are forced to navigate the unpredictable waterways. They must wade through chest-deep, fast-moving brown rivers where flash floods regularly sweep people away. The physical terrain is beatable, but without infrastructure, it extracts an extreme cost in human life and safety. The absence of state infrastructure leaves a power vacuum filled by the Gulf Clan, Colombia's largest and most heavily armed drug cartel. The cartel operates the Colombian side of the jungle as a strictly regulated toll road. They charge every migrant a fee, often hundreds of dollars, simply for the right to step onto the trails. They maintain a vast militarized presence deep within the forest to manage this illicit economy. Migrants who cannot pay face immediate, violent consequences. The vacuum left by the abandoned highway project handed total monopoly over the region's movement to a lethal shadow economy. If hundreds of thousands of civilians can traverse the gap on foot, modern engineers certainly possess the technology to pave it. They can raise highways over swamps and blast tunnels through mountains. The official reason for halting the road was an agricultural crisis. In the 1970s, the U.S. Department of Agriculture lobbied against the highway, arguing it would allow foot and mouth disease to spread from South American cattle into North American herds. This provided the perfect geopolitical justification to permanently halt development. The jungle was designated a biological quarantine zone, effectively ending any plans for a road. Today, the road remains unbuilt because regional governments have no desire to finish it. For decades, the U.S., Panama, and Colombia have quietly agreed that leaving the gap wild serves a specific geopolitical purpose. This map shows how migration flows are forced to constrict entirely at the Darién bottleneck. By refusing to pave the road, authorities maintain the gap as a natural filter, using the environment to slow and discourage movement toward the north. Data shows this deterrent has failed. The numbers of people crossing continue to rise, and the lack of a road has only succeeded in handing billions of dollars in revenue to the cartels. The jungle has become a surrogate for border enforcement. Governments have effectively outsourced their migration policy to the lethal forces of nature. The Darién Gap remains a haunting reminder that the most impenetrable borders aren't always the ones we build, but the ones we leave wild. It forces us to confront the human cost when a sovereign border is defined entirely by the brutality of the earth itself.